My grandfather was a speech pathologist in St. Tammany Parish, and he served as the school board there. My father, he was a teacher, a principal, and then he served in the personnel department in the St. Tammany Parish School Board as well. My mom, she was an elementary school secretary for a while, and then she felt the call to go be an in-school suspension leader to make a greater impact in the lives of the children who may just need a little more attention. And my wife, she's a teacher of 8 years, and she serves in a leadership position at her childhood school. And I'm finishing up my 18 years in Calcasieu Parish School Board. And you know, the service and the commitment that we have as a family, but that it just continues. It's not a job, it's not a calling. This opportunity to interview for superintendent is not a job or a choice. It is a calling. It is a deep calling. And that comes with some sacrifice. That comes with some hard conversations, communicating hard truths. That comes with many celebrations as well. You know, I've had the opportunity in my role to do both. I've had to have difficult conversations with students and parents, administrators and teachers. But I've also had opportunities to celebrate increased proficiency in math multiple years in a row. I've had the opportunity to celebrate now 2 middle school principals who made it to the state principal of the year finalists. We're waiting to hear if, you know, Dr. Anderson gets to celebrate and be the state principal of the year. How exciting is that, you know? And so, as we begin this journey together, I'm excited just with the few things that I think make us unique, give us the opportunities to do what's best for children. I think we get a chance to develop a shared culture. I think we have the opportunity with some new legislation to empower our people, our staff, and our administrators. I think we have the very important task of being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. And so, to build our organization, we do need the culture. We need to establish what do we want, but then where are we currently? You know, I think through focus groups, through opportunities to dialogue with parents, through that effective communication with community members, with you guys, we can hear what we want to be and what we want to become for the children of our parish. I think we have the opportunity as we review where we're spending our dollars. We take a hard look at what is the return on investment that we're making, and then how is that translating to instruction? Are our dollars equating to increase student performance? And if the answer is no, let's find a way to do that. Let's find a better avenue to get that return on investment. Through being fiscally responsible, we have the opportunity to empower our people, making sure that we have staffed appropriately, that we staff our schools appropriately for student success, that we have professional development that's tailored to them, meeting them where they are. Some teachers need a little more support, while our veteran teachers, we can trust them. We also have to develop ourselves, the leadership in our parish too, so we can allocate funds for that. I think we stand at again, just a wonderful opportunity to come together through clear, effective communication, through reaching out to our leadership, to our teachers, to our parents. We can communicate and form what we want. And so I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm excited for the chance to hear what's important to you through your questions, to respond and let you know who I am through the answers. And then also I'm excited for the opportunity to serve as the next superintendent. And I ask that you strongly consider, I ask that you select me as the next superintendent. And so I'm looking forward to the questions. I do have a 120-day action plan. Is now a good time to pass it out?
Yeah, pass it out, certainly, yeah. So, yeah, just give it to one of us and we'll pass it down.
Take one, pass it down.
Yeah, that's good.
Old school.
Yeah. Will's got it.
Take one, pass it down.
Good. And so, questions, we're gonna start down with Ms. Gay this way, we're gonna work this way.
Good afternoon, Mr. Clanton.
Hello.
My question to you is, and you know, and you're aware, that we have 5 amazing candidates for this position. Most of you all have been assistant principals. I'd like to know what other things have prepared you for this position? And I'm going to tag something else on so that I don't have to have a second round.
Yes, ma'am.
What communication method do you intend to use to engage the community? And I'm in particular speaking about the parents and the community where the struggling schools are located, because there's been plan after plan after plan for the last 10 years, and you've been with the district 18 years, I think you said.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm sure that you are aware of some things that you might have done differently at that time had you been the one to make that decision. So could you share some of that with us?
Yes, ma'am. To begin with the other experiences that I've had. So through my assistant principalship, through my principalship, and now administrative director of middle schools, I've had the opportunity to learn effective communication skills. I've had the chances to build 2 different teams. As an administrative director, I've had to build a very intimate team with our content consultants, and then I've also had the opportunity to develop a very rich, open culture with the administrative teams in the middle schools and the 2 elementaries that I get to serve as well. And so through trial and error, through successes and reflection to learn, and also having the awareness to ask for feedback. And so I would say that's an experience like no other, when you ask for feedback and they give you that pathway, and then you say, no, really, what's it like, Ms. Gay, being on the other side of me? And then they hit you with the truth, and then you respond with growth. And because if I grow, everybody else grows, right? Above and below. I can influence them all. And so methods of communication, I loved my time at FK White, serving as principal, and the communication of, I would do weekly call outs on Sundays. I would communicate with them via Facebook. I would show them Facebook Lives, showing authentic work that the students and the teachers were doing. And so I've also had the opportunity to work with some schools that are labeled incorrectly, I think, because they're working very hard, right? And so working with the administration to reach out to the parents, or when the parents call me, being very responsive and very open, hearing their concerns, and then meeting them where they are so that we can do what's best for their child. And so I think getting back to communicating directly to the parents, being with you, we can walk together in your school and have a focus group or a town hall meeting and sit, hear concerns, and respond to them.
Thank you, Mr. Clanton.
Mr. Bichon?
All right, so, you probably know where I'm going with this. 2-part question. One, if you get this job, will you be sending your kids to public school?
You want to go with the second, or you want me to respond to
I
that?
figured you let you answer the first.
Sure. Yeah, so 1, thank you. 2, as we've talked about, but to share with everybody, before having children, my wife and I made a decision that faith formation was very important to us. And so the decision to send our children to another school and not a Gaucho Parish School Board, it has nothing to do with the educational choice. It has everything to do with the faith decision. In fact, after Hurricane Laura and Delta, we enrolled our 2 oldest children at College Oaks Elementary with Miss Jackson and had a wonderful month of education. It was great. It just, if we offered that faith formation, it would be no question. I stand behind the work I do every day, ensuring that our students get the very best education possible. And so for us, the question right now, or the answer right now, is no, sir, we're gonna keep investing in it.
And I completely respect the decision, and find it very honorable. But second part, how would you address the criticism if somebody comes up with a situation where they say, how do you expect us to send our kids to these schools when the superintendent doesn't send them to their schools?
Sure, I think that going back though, the educational experience that we offer is top notch. And I think if a parent comes and they are exercising their choice of faith formation, well, that's going to outweigh the educational experience. But I would say if they're seeking an environment or they're seeking the education, I'm gonna walk with them and show them. I'll work with the school administration that they're zoned for or that they're interested in, and we'll go tour. Much like I did at FK when people were worried about things they heard, but when we set up a tour and we walked the halls, they said, oh my gosh, this place is amazing. I said, exactly, thank you for coming in. And so, criticism, we educate to the best way we can.
Mr. Baumgarten.
Mr. Clanton, so how do you see technology evolving in education? And how would you ensure that our district, which is one of the top districts or parishes in the state, how do you ensure that we keep on moving in the right direction and keep our students and our teachers up to date and prepared for what's coming and keeping us as one of the top parishes in the state?
Technology is evolving quickly, very quickly. And I have to give our tech department a shout out at this time. They have gone lockstep with the AI movement. They have developed an educational training which was top notch. I had a chance to go through it and complete it. And so it's an educational not to fear it. Now I think there has to be a balance. It'll never replace the teacher. It'll never replace the staff. You can't replace the power of the human spirit and the connection that we make with the children or with one another. You can't. And so I think going back to being fiscally responsible, ensuring our dollars are getting the return on investment. Are we investing in the right equipment? And I know we do have a plan as far as cycling the computers in or the iPads for our little ones, but making sure that technology doesn't become a worksheet. Making sure that it's just a tool and not, here goes sit down.
Mr. Hardesty.
All right, Mr. Clanton.
I'm gonna go with my same question that I asked previous interview. I think we have, in my opinion, we have 5 great candidates for this job. What or how can you convince us that you are the person for this job?
Based on my experiences, based on my collective growth, I am a lifelong learner. I'm also a believer in who, not how. I'm a believer in let's find the expert, the true expert, and not the self-proclaimed guru, but let's find who has the answer and let's learn from them. I would say I have no problem going first, feeling the anxiety, or even the fear of being perceived a certain way or not having all the answers, because I know that there's no way that we can have all the answers. As we do new things or we push forward just a little bit and we get into uncharted waters, I would say Mr. Hardesty, my opportunity to build teams, to develop trust quickly, but it's through the consistent work and consistent communication. I'd say that I communicate very effectively. I think if you ask anybody who I've worked with, they would say that as well. I would encourage you to ask the people who work with me. I feel like we have open dialogue, and I think that's important. We have clear mission. we know what we wanna hit, and that makes hard conversations pretty easy. We can just say, did we do it, did we not? And it helps speed up. It helps speed up the process. Gets us to where we wanna be faster. So, I've had 5 years in this role, administrative director. I've seen a lot of challenges. I've had hard conversations where we have to reduce staff on campuses, and that's never fun, ever. But it's part of it. And we have now gotten to a point where we may not like it, but we understand it. And so I bring that. I also bring a network that's unlimited. I would say, you've heard the expression, your net worth is your network. I'll bring a network with me that we can call, tap into, and get a national viewpoint to implement it for our children.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Washington?
Good evening,
Okay, Doc.
in your pretty blue suit.
Thank you.
I want to get personal for a minute.
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay.
Do I have a choice?
No. No, you don't. But, I do want to get personal.
Sure.
And this deals with my granddaughter,
Okay.
who is a student at a middle school. She has a legal right to be there through the M&M process, and she hates school. She hates school because every day she feels like she's called inappropriate names. And I won't just be graphic and tell you what they are. She also feels like the teachers are not fair, that they treat one group of students different than other groups.
Yes.
As the director of middle schools, administrative director of middle schools, what do you plan to do to address that? Even if you were selected as superintendent, how would you change the culture of schools? And I apologize if I made anyone feel uncomfortable, but this is real.
So, one, thank you for getting personal. Two, my plan would be, no matter what happens, you and I will follow up, right? I'll get some more information. I would say we face it head on, we being me. I face the conversation directly, as I did a month ago with a perception issue between some admin, okay? Facing the hard truths and having hard conversations, it's part of the calling, it's part of the job. But then, on the other hand, so is the follow-up. It's the checking in to see what happened at the school campus. It's finding out just what is happening. So, I mean, Doc, you and I had a conversation about perception after a school board, or before a school board meeting about summer school. I would handle it the same way. Listen, fully listen, and then address it. Because after that conversation, some changes were made, right?
Right.
And so, the administrative director in me I'm going through my brain wondering, have you come in and talked to me about this? And I can't remember.
Talk to the superintendent.
Okay, so we'll follow up, period.
Ms. Roberts?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, Mr. Roberts.
You mentioned in your opening statement, talking about collectively improving Calcasieu Parish. I think I know where you were going, but as a school system, we only have students 5 days a week, so many hours a day, turn them loose on Friday, and we get them back wild and rambunctious on Monday.
Yes.
There's only so much we can do within that time, and we're educating them. But there's other parts of their lives that we can't really get into. I know you're involved in our community. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and we talked about that. How would you work with our community to fill that gap and improve that time that they're not with us, and try to fill those voids that leadership role as superintendent?
So I've had the opportunity in the last month to sit in with some community members from South Lake Charles, from North Lake Charles. I've also recently found out that our police jury is doing amazing work at supporting families in need. I've reached out to one of the directors of the program because through some of the community meetings that I've had with members, parents are working, they're doing the best they can. Some of them can't keep their lights on, only to find out that we have light bill assistance that the city of Lake Charles offers. And that now mom can focus on parenting, and then they come back less rambunctious. Being a part of family and youth counseling, their board, and then being a part of Mentor You Advisory Board through Big Brothers and Big Sisters, really working to get them back into school, back into middle schools and high schools as well. They're still having a little lag from COVID, getting back in, offering support after hours. And so that work's already begun. It's just reaching out, meeting with them. And I do want to do that pretty quickly. You'll see on my action plan, I want to start meeting with the community members. The Junior League does amazing work in a lot of our schools. So continuing that connection and fostering new ones, fostering a healthy relationship that we have with the city of Lake Charles and the police jury feeding, finding out where we are, and then accentuating that. Yes, sir.
Mr. Castillo.
I'm sorry, Mr. Castillo, I'm sorry, within the great work of the Kiwanis Club, and then we have the Rotary Club, we have civic organizations that are just, look, one of the strengths, if one of y'all asked me what's a strength of Cauchy Parish, and that might be your question, so if it is, just give me a nod and I'll be quiet. Okay?
First, Mr. Clanton, I just want to say it's very admirable you to make the sacrifice. Very admirable of you and your family to make the sacrifice to send your child to a religious school where they receive that religious education. I did the same thing as well. So you're the kind of guy that strikes me as doing a SWOT analysis of our parish. So that's where I want to go with this. Strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Can you go over those, what you feel they are, and what you would do as a superintendent to counteract some of those?
Yeah, so my problem right off the bat is a weakness to me is an opportunity. I mean, it's just, maybe we haven't developed it enough. So some strengths that we have right off the bat, our staff, our people, they're amazing, right? They get up every day with our students' best interest in mind, from administration to our cafeteria technicians, bus aides, I mean, everyone in between. And I'm not gonna name them all, so I don't mean to offend anybody, but not naming them, we have a lot of positions. But I have had the chance to work with them, and they are one of the greatest asset we have, right, our people. The second is our community, and that's what I was gonna jump into. Our community is passionate about education. They wanna know what's going on, and they want what's best for their children. Quite frankly, I would love to know the stats on the live feed right now of how many of our community members are tuned in, just to be able to see what they're saying, what they're about, and then they can form their opinions. But our community's involvement, truly, the civic organizations, the city of Lake Charles, the surrounding areas too, all the way from Starks. You know, I've had the opportunity now to work with all these communities, and they're all invested in the children and what's best for them. I would say the opportunities and resources that we can provide, the offerings that our children have, and that's why I go back. If it was just an educational choice, my kids and my wife may get mad at me, and that's fine, but they don't have the same opportunities at their school that our children do. We have offerings for our children that are unmatched. At other districts, to Mr. Bumgarner's part about our technology, they have access to so many resources. I would say some opportunities, weaknesses, and what we need to address. There's no secret about a teacher shortage. which leads to a leader shortage. So I think we have an opportunity there to take a look at how we are recruiting, what's our practices to build upon the foundation that we have for retainment. We have a great mentor program, new teacher academy. We're beefing up our onboarding, and I don't mean onboarding as like go do fingerprints and background. I mean meeting these new teachers where they are, giving them the resources they need, empowering them. I would also say an opportunity is to take a step back, see how we are remediating, meeting the kids where they are, meeting the children where they are. But we do have a large percentage of students at a below grade level, and that we do need to address that. And so, while I say it's a weakness, opportunity interchangeably, because we're getting new language in the new evaluation system, and while the rubric is robust and just has more components and seems cumbersome, from my perspective, the fastest way to build a culture is through language, a shared language. And so now we have better language of best practices to say, look, we're already doing this. Now, how can we tweak and improve? So for me as the superintendent, I would work with my C&I team to address that. I would continue to work with them because I know the work that we're doing as far as where we're going with high dosage tutoring, the opportunities we have for that. I would also say for the recruitment and retainment, I get the opportunity as superintendent to work directly with Mr. Barentine and our wonderful HR, our personnel department, and just see where we are and what needs to either change or refine or start differently. So I think, in short, time and attention. Being intentional with the review of what we're currently doing, and then it just goes back to our vision, mission, and our core values, who we are, what we're about, where we want to go.
Reverend Wallace.
Good evening, Mr. Clanton.
Hello.
All right, in your introduction, you mentioned develop leadership within our parish.
Yes, sir.
And with that mindset and keeping that in view, my question is, it's pretty much two parts connected, but how would you ensure that the district's top tier leadership reflects the demographics of the student population and community? And the second part is, what steps would you take to promote that diversity within the leadership team?
Part one, right? Part one is we need it. We need diversity. We need diversity in thought, skill set. We need diversity in representation.
You just, I may interrupt, but top tier, I'll define that.
No,
Okay.
go ahead. You can though if you
That's
like.
above, and I will, but it's above administrative director.
Sure.
It is within our top tier leadership.
Sure. Yes or no, I understood. I think we have to do an intentional, I think we have to be intentional with our development. I think we have to be intentional with our pipeline. This is twofold. There's opportunity for a short-term fix, but there's also a long-term sustainable fix as well, ensuring that we continue the Leadership Academy. We had it, we had to press pause, and now I have a blueprint to continue that, to get that back up and running and be intentional with our selection. So I think that's number one. We have to develop that, because I know you're saying top tier, but at our administrative director role or director role, we have diversity in that role. So we have people in the pipeline currently, and that's why I mentioned the short-term fix. We have opportunity. The other side is, what's the sustainable plan for developing our leaders? How do we ensure that, any leader is the best possible with that, whether they're white, black, Hispanic, I think we have a job of ensuring their development and the leadership. And if you don't mind, number two? Or was that all tied together?
Number two, yeah. It was, what steps?
What steps would you take to promote
Yes.
That diversity within the leadership team? And thinking of the current state of our leadership team on top tier.
Yeah, I can say, with my experience, that while it's not the top tier, right, but relative to positional hiring, I think I have evidence to support that I do support reflection of community. I have made appointments of principals that I would say reflect that I'm not afraid to put the best candidate no matter what race they are. If they're the best and they're gonna follow out what's best for children and our staff, that's the steps, right? But I think it goes back to concretely being intentional with developing. If we don't set them up for success for the next step, then how can anybody get to the next step?
Mr. Natale?
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. My question is gonna be, part of the first 30 days of your action plan. I know that, in June, Bessie revised our, accountability system. And I've seen in your first 30 days, you want to establish a task force.
Yes.
And I guess, two-part question. One would be, do you agree with the changes that Bessie made? And secondly, what strategies do you see us implementing to basically be able to deal with the changes that they've had?
So I think there are aspects of what they passed that are good. I think a holistic agreement, I'm gonna say that. But as far as some of the aspects of focusing on the bottom 25%, changing the growth measure from a very specific number that the students had to grow to, hey, if you're a low approaching basic range and you grow to a high approaching basic range, now we have a range that we can get to and not a specific number. And I think that is a move in the right direction because you're still focused on meeting the child where they are, giving them what they need, and continuing that growth. Specific steps to address this, I think we continue where we are right now. And what I mean by that is, we do have a focus group of administrators currently, getting feedback on best ways to educate, to roll out the expectations of the new evaluation system. I think that if we have a shift of focus and a shift of mindset and say, hey, look, we're not gonna just simply evaluate the teacher in the classroom or from the administrative director role, we're not simply gonna evaluate the administrator's behavior, but also tie in what's the impact on the students. How did this lesson translate to learning? And when we make the focus learning, right, then we can have better conversations. Going back to the rubric that we will be implementing, we have more language, we have best practice language that we can leverage to remain focused on meeting the kids where they are and then growing them. Yes, sir.
Mr. Brooke?
I'm gonna start off by saying, Mr. Clanton, but I'm gonna go back to when I've known you for years, and your time here at McNeese, you taught, Coach Thomas at baseball, which I actually do have a question from him. He wants to know how you're gonna incorporate foul balls into administrators in, leadership roles that don't follow your direction.
I firmly believe that we would get sued and that would not be fiscally responsible.
Well, I'll tell you, he may be watching, but anyway, a lot of the questions that I wanted to ask you have already been asked. Some of them, one of them is gonna end up being, what do you think your top 3 challenges are gonna kinda end up being, and you've answered probably 2 what I thought they would be, so I'll kinda go to one of them, and it kinda ties in percent of it is tied to salaries and benefits, which leaves us a very small window to be able to operate and do a lot of different things. So what's your plan to deal with the loss of the ESSER funds that we've kind of become reliant upon?
Yeah, so we've already refined one iteration of what we can't fund, right? So we're losing some of the programs that we brought on. The second phase of that will be, okay, so we were able to fund 24-25. How do we get more intentional? A lot of money now, textbook companies are no longer textbook companies, they're business models and they're geniuses for them, not for us. And so they have consumables. Every year we have to buy online licenses, the consumable workbooks that go away. So some of those are fixed costs, which is not a bad thing because we can plan for that. We know those costs now, and we're coming up with a plan already to how we can continue to put the highest quality instructional material in front of our children. I'd say, going back to my opening, I want to sit, so I've already sat with Mr. Bourne prior to this, right, for preparation. Got a very good overview of our budget, the big budget. I need to go sit down and be meticulous in where are we spending our money? How is that working out for us? For example, as administrative director, I've cut programs because we weren't getting the return what the company said we would get, right? And so narrowing our focus and really paying attention to where our dollars and cents are going. And if we're not seeing the expected outcome of that is, I just think that it's that easy. We just say, this isn't working. Let's allocate funds to a place that is, or that we need to be working.
Well, it's kind of like, and I'm glad you kind of went there, because it ties in, we spent a lot of money on a lot of different things. Some of them work, some of them don't work. And that old definition of insanity, we know what it is. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but since I've been on the board, and one thing that just irritates me, as good as our state is, and we go across the parish, or the state, and the state wishes they could be like us on a lot of different levels, technology and curriculum and leadership and a lot of that kind of stuff. But we still have some schools that are extreme struggling, a lot on that, which like I said, I think that they are working hard. But the amount of money that we're spending in those schools is 2 to 1 for some of them that aren't. So it's not, we just keep year after year dumping money into this, and we still getting the same old results. So that kind of ties in to how is all that gonna work?
Yeah, so, Mr. Brewer, I'm trying to choose my words.
Well, you know me, I'm about just blunt, just.
I do know you, I do, and I appreciate that. I wonder if we're allocating appropriately. I wonder if we're meeting the people in the building's needs and where they are. And I don't just mean the students, I also mean the adults. I have had the opportunity of watching leadership transform, and the comment back to me, and I'm trying to be respectful because it was a private conversation. It was, in the past, people have told me what to do, and you have come in and offered and shown me a different way. And so, as superintendent, I would have the opportunity to work with the district leadership alongside them to work with the school leadership, where we are allocating 2 to 1 funds. You know, I can't answer that without walking with them, but I think that's the key, is walking with them, establishing honest and open rapport and relationship, because like you said, you know me, and you know that's a skill set that I have, that I will communicate with you directly, but it's for the betterment of the children. And then you will determine whether you like that or not, whether you like that type of communication. And you can decide, or hopefully not, will decide for you, right? Because they were hired to do the job. But I wonder, what does that look like? What does that support look like? And I just don't know, I don't have that answer
Before I decided to run for school board, I had been retired several years, so I went back to sub. First of all, the application for subbing is crazy. I mean, it took me 3 months to get, after I taught, 30 years, to get, qualified to sub, which I thought was ridiculous. And then secondly, when I went and visited the schools, my biggest problem, when I sat down and talked with teachers, was that we have policies throughout this parish, but every school enforces them differently. For example, the cell phones. The biggest issue I had in subbing in the high school was the cell phone. And some junior highs, the teachers did a better job because they had very strong principles, of governing this cell phone policy. So I just want to know how you're going consistently, and the cell phone is an issue. The only problems I had in subbing, cell phones. So what are you going to do to make it more consistent throughout the parish, that we all obey the same rules?
That has been a challenge for a while, right? We trust our principals to run their schools and meet their children where they are, and sometimes that does lead to inconsistencies in enforcement. I think too, on this specific topic, tying back into a challenge that I foresee coming for us, which will require some dialogue and great communication to the public. So I'd like to take this opportunity to plant the seed with the public, if you don't mind, around cell phones, that they're now illegal in schools. And so how we enforce that, what does that look like, will require internal communication along with external communication to our families. And so I think going back to leadership development, how do we get consistency, right? We're clear on what we're trying to do. And then it's through consistent follow-up. If we're having an issue, for example, if I get a phone call, I'm gonna follow up with the principal, right? And then I'm gonna follow back up to see, just to check in how we're doing. And I think that just comes with me as superintendent working with the administrative directors on reviewing. Ms. Biandini, she works in child welfare and attendance, does a wonderful job of running the data and sharing the data. We could probably spend a little more time discussing the root causes of it and how we can address that. Why is it so much higher at your school than over here, and having that honest conversation. So it's, again, being very clear on communication with them on what we expect, and then following up. The old Mr. Leo Miller, inspect what you expect. Consistently. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McReynolds?
Mr. Clanton,
Hello.
we never really met one-on-one, but, it's all with good timing. So I think this is the best day that presenting and talking, you explain yourself and what you stand for. I have a twofold question. My first question is, if you're selected superintendent, what are some ways you would sustain teachers in Calcasieu Parish?
Okay. Would you like me to respond to that, or do you want to plant the second question?
You can, give me the answer to that one, then I'll go into the second.
Okay. So that is a concern. Looking at our data, 22-23 school year, 38% of the teachers that left were 0 to 5 years. Okay, I know what we have in place. We have a growing mentor program. We have the Office of Teacher and Leader Support that hosts speakers that come in to help work with classroom management, give tips to new teachers on that. We have mentors within our schools and veteran teachers that perform at a very high level, taking new teachers under their wing. And so that program is a foundational piece to how we can do that. I also believe we have, if I'm not mistaken, at the last budget year, we had good news that, our sales tax are performing at a pretty high rate. So we have an opportunity to look at ways that we can compensate more. I think that's speaking to one of my principals, that's a very real situation that's on the minds of our staffs. I think those two. I think also them in mind when we talk about customer service. How do we meet their needs? How do we also develop the cultures within the schools where they love and want to come to work?
Mr. O'Banion?
You had to-
Oh, you got a second part? Oh, she's cheating with the second part, okay.
Mr. Clanton, how would you incorporate or find ways to get certified teachers or high-performing teachers into our low-performing schools?
Yeah, so we saw a couple of initiatives that really did appear to work. The data supports that it worked. Definitely in one school that we had, a middle school. We saw a big boost in that. I don't know if that's a realistic way to go without ESSER. That was a huge piece of that. But I do think that we could, I think going back though, I think working together, I think getting some people in the room around the table with, talking about ways, is it possible to allocate funds? Is it possible now we're dipping into the salary schedule and we're talking about some things that I would need more than just tonight to talk about, right? To really take a look at, is this feasible? And so I think, are there ways to increase compensation for those harder to staff schools?
My last question is, can you tell us what school that was, that middle school that had a high performance?
I can't, that was Ray Emo, yes ma'am. Very proud of that. And what we saw, Ms. McReynolds, truthfully, was stability. We saw stability in the faculty. The turnover rate went down, and the workload was intense. What Dr. Anderson put on herself and her admin team and her teachers trickled down, the expectations trickled down to the kids. And I think that it just, smart, hard work, being intentional, paid off. Now, going back though, it wasn't without hard conversations. From leadership to leadership to teachers, to teachers to parents and students. It just, you know, the other side of uncomfortable is success. And they did it. And I'm looking forward to this year too.
Mr. O'Banion?
All right, first, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, it's more of a statement, but I wish we had a good meeting, I wish I would've known about the private school issue then. I just want to, I'm just asking for public input from all over the parish, I just wanna know how people feel about that, because we did have a good meeting, you know, and
Yes.
I wanna get some feedback. Like I said, that's not a question, that's just a request for
Yes, sir.
me. My question is staffing at all levels, top down. It just seems like when we make cuts, it seems like it's usually in the classroom first. And are you willing to look at all levels and make some cuts in some other areas before we go?
I agree. Yes, sir, I think our current reduction in force policy is very targeted, the steps that we have. And so, man, I'm really failing y'all tonight, because part of my opening, I had this beautifully written thing, right? This beautifully written statement that said, optimizing systems for maximum efficiency. And some of that though was a review of our processes, our policies, because that is been on my mind. Because when I walk in and we have that hard conversation with, hello, principal, we have to reduce by 2, right? Well, the first place we go is a core instruction, just based on the policy. So I think that is definitely one that we need to look at. Yes,
And
we'll look at it.
You on the weather radio? Just,
Yes, sir.
okay, good deal.
Yes, sir. And look, can I just circle back, since Mr. Castile opened the door, do you mind if I use you as an example, sir, in a positive way? I would never. So, you know, he made his decision to send his children for paid formation, and I did too. And I didn't say this earlier, but I think it's important because perception is reality. But I also would counter with perception over the long term is reality. would say, I've served 18 years with students and parents and staffs at Calhoun Parish, ranging from Starks over to Iowa. And I would say the perception is, my heart is 100% for these children and the parents and the staffs. And so, I will acknowledge that there might be some community members or parents that in the beginning struggle with that, and maybe some never let it go, Mr. O'Banion, they might not. But Mr. Castile, he serves the communities, but then he also has the greater community in mind. And I would say, I've been taking notes for 5 years. When I sit out here on my computer, I'm taking notes. And through his consistent decision-making and through his consistent behavior, there's no question that he cares about bettering CPSB. And so I do understand why that's a hang-up for you, so I'm not trying to discount that. But I would say, don't let that stop you from putting me as the next superintendent. Because I'm gonna work to ensure that my behaviors, my decisions, my dialogue and communication supersede that perception. That may be there in the beginning.
Ms. Nail?
They took all the good questions.
No, I'm sure you have one. I'm sure you have.
I'll come up with something. All right, I like that you mentioned about unburdening our teachers. There's a lot of paperwork that teachers do, and you know that I have the heart of a teacher. That's who I am. I'm really concerned with our teacher morale. They feel like they are not heard. They're not respected. We know we don't have any money, or we're told we don't have any money, and so we don't get to pay them. Some of them have excellent leaders, and people don't go into education for a paycheck. That's not rocket science. But our teachers are tired. They are exhausted, and inflation is continuing to go up, and their paychecks aren't going up, and their passion for teaching is not gonna pay the bills. And so my heart hurts. I'm not sure if that's a question. You can, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And then also we have Leapfrog that we just spent $30,000 on to see where we're at and where we compare. And our last superintendent told us that he wasn't gonna be making any changes. We haven't got that information, or we have, and it's on hold, I don't know. But are you willing to look at Leapfrog and make changes? We need money. Our teachers need money from the bottom, our clerks, all the way. We're hurting, and everything's going up. Our insurance is going up. Grocery store, it's not rocket science. One of the things that I love about you, and like I said, good luck forming a question from this.
I got you.
One of the things, you can keep up with my squirrels.
I got you.
One of the things that I love about you is that you always look for the silver lining. And I had the pleasure of working with you before you were my boss. You have done an excellent job in your position with team building. And how are you going to use that? The public, they don't trust us. I'm just going to put it out there. The public doesn't trust us, and they want transparency. And how are you going to bring about some transparency? And how are you going to build us back? How are you going to make us grow?
Is that all?
Unless they come up with a two-part question, and I'll.
Is that round 2 and 3? So, all right, let's try to unpack this real quick, okay? Because I know time is of essence. Hopefully somebody ordered pizza for y'all. So, let's start with, how do we develop a team, right? You start with the very basic, you gotta have trust, right? And so, I hear you, the public doesn't trust us, that's the perception right now. But I think too, we have to give credit where credit's due, so I wanna give some shout outs if you don't mind. So Stephanie Strahan sitting over here. Steph, will you raise your hand, please? Steph is I would say the glue that holds the middle school her team, I would say, not too long ago. But she has taken it on to hear my crazy ideas and be like, yeah, let's figure this out. And so her and Ashley Guillory and Tech have been working tirelessly to use the tools that we have available to us through the Microsoft suite to create these workflows where we are cleaning up the fundraiser request form. Now that doesn't sound like a whole lot to you, and that's fair. It probably doesn't sound like a whole lot to the public either, and it shouldn't. But when you're asking your clerks to do double, triple work, you're asking your principals to do double, triple work when you have to have your teacher fill out a form, go to the bookkeeper, get the principal to sign it, they send it to the administrative director. Administrative director or clerk sends it back to them. Because I've had the privilege of being a administrative clerical director is what I called myself when I didn't have a clerk for a long time. So I got a firsthand account of some of our processes, and when I say optimized systems, this is what I mean. It's a time saver. It's an email, fill it out, email. Everybody on the chain gets an email that says approved, denied. Now, you do that if you're the beta sponsor, or if you're the student council sponsor enough times, and the trip to the office, that you have to fill it out, back to my room, time to fill. You get where I'm going with this, right? So I'm not trying to overpromise that we're gonna solve all of the burdens of paperwork, because that's not real. Some of it comes with laws and we don't have a way around it. But some of it, how can we control? When I say people are our best asset, we have go-getters in every position. Just plant seeds, and we get this wonderful fruit from it, okay? So number one, what I'm doing right now is an aspect of team building. Give credit where credit's due, right? And so when you say, how am I gonna do that? I would say, we have Holly over here who rattled off a stat to me, which I wanna ask you. Do you mind if I ask you a question? In a year, how many visits to our in the last year, fiscal year, how many visits to our Facebook page do you think we had? All right, would anybody like to take a guess? I know I'm breaking protocol of our thing, and I might get, but how much? 100,000. That's a solid guess. Anybody else? 200,000? 2 million. Getting warmer. We've had 1.6 million visits to our Facebook page alone over the past year. How do we build trust? We've had 1.6 million visits just to our Facebook page. Do you know how many opportunities that is for our parents and community to see the great work that our teachers and our admin are doing in schools, or our other departments that we haven't even touched on yet, right? The people in the bus garage that keep our buses running, the people in food services who push out recipes, new menu options, right? We have an opportunity for me to speak, when I'm superintendent, I'll have the opportunity to speak directly to the parents on that platform. And we have an opportunity, 1.6 million touches just on that. We didn't even look at the website. Our people are tired. I hear you. I do, I really do. I think though, that goes back to an answer that I already gave, but I mean it. That's a priority, sitting down, taking a look. Esther's gone away. Middle school team, they want to give me a shirt that says, hey, have you heard? Esther's going away, right? It's like a running joke, except for it's not a joke, it's very real. And so, we can't go do bake sales to raise more money. So we have to work within what we have. That's why the allocation of dollars is so important. We're not getting the return. Let's put it where we need to. So yes, am I willing to take a look? I'm not willing, I'm gonna take a look at how we can do that. So I think I got some of it.
You definitely got all the time we'll allow.
Okay.
We're not allowed anymore. All right, so now we have to go, the policy is we have to go to executive session now, maximum of 30 minutes for the crowd. Probably won't take that long, the other one didn't take nearly that long. I need a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Urbanian, motion, second.